I read your comments on the last, wasn't sure that was going to work. Sorry, caught my attention. I read your comments on the last cravings video. Um, the pattern that I saw was undeniable. Most of you are trapped in the exact same cycle. You take a bite of garbage, whether that's chocolate or fruit, and it triggers a 3-day spiral. You're accidentally triggering a chemical hijack, not lacking in willpower like we are often told. So today, we stop treating this like a discipline problem and start treating it like the chemical reality it is. So let's fix the mechanism. I want to walk down this rabbit hole with you so that we can take a good look at what's happening and actually solve things. So people have often asked me, how do I stop spiraling after one bite? I want us to stop calling it a slip up, stop calling it a mistake, stop putting the eyes on ourselves, because that's what we're doing when we're calling it a mistake, and understand that when we eat anything that's high in sugar, we are chemically reactivating that dopamine system, that that chasing scenario, the compulsions, the feeling out of control, all the stuff. We are chemically reactivating that. And that's why one bite leads to a problem. So if you don't understand that that's what's happening, that one bite is waking up all that dormant dopamine pathway foolishness that you got yourself out of by eating healthy the previous week or two or month or two or however long it was before you had that bite off plan, then you're not going to understand why is it that this one thing can throw me in a loop. And it happens instantly. You're not going to be able to change that overnight. And I don't know if we're ever able to truly change it. So rather than fighting with myself and thinking of yourself as weak, because you're not weak, again, this is a chemical reactivation. And I don't know if you've ever done chemistry in school or even just watched a few little experiments on the internet. Once you put the chemicals together, the reaction is going to happen. So this is not a weakness in you that you end up eating a whole box of insert whatever your thing is, or a whole family pack of chocolate bars, or whatever it is that you do or did. You've successfully activated that programming, that reaction, I should say, to start running again. And the thing that you want to think about doing to fix that, because it's the only thing that we can actually do to fix it, is to stop feeding the pathway to begin with. If we keep the two chemicals apart, the reaction doesn't happen. That's what we need to understand. If I don't feed sugar into my body, then that dopamine machine doesn't get turned, so my brain doesn't get turned on chasing that dopamine. And so therefore, I don't start chasing again. It is not possible. You cannot moderate a biological hijack. It is just not possible. So when they're telling you, oh, everybody else can moderate, why can't you? It's because they're lying to you. Nobody's moderating this stuff. So, and I'm being very honest and serious when I say that. Nobody's moderating this stuff. If you've never been pulled into the chase for something, you're just not going to chase it. My nephew, to the bewilderment of me, never liked chocolate. So did he chase chocolate? Never. He doesn't like it. He doesn't chase it. If I have a bite of chocolate, or had, I don't know if it would happen to me today, but if I had a bite of chocolate, I was on a spiral. And the worst part is at the very beginning, I wouldn't even notice the spiral. Maybe I'd go a few months and I hadn't had any chocolate. And then Maybe Halloween would happen and these stupid little things would come up, and then I'd have one. No big deal. And then by the time I realize it, all those little chocolate blah blahs that my daughter doesn't necessarily chase, she eats chocolate, but it's not her thing. It's not her big thing either. Next thing you know, I've picked out all the ones that I like. And I'm not touching the ones I don't like. Again, there's certain chocolate that I actually don't like because we won't just eat anything. If it doesn't taste good to me, I'm not going to eat it unless I'm really, really, really in a pickle. But what would happen after that? Because I'm never really in a pickle, I have money. Now I'm buying a chocolate bar a day. Again, don't notice it. This seems very reasonable until it's more than one chocolate bar a day. It is so easy to get pulled out of the good behavior that you were doing and pulled back down that path. And that's why I'm really encouraging you. The only way to stop this, wellness warrior, is to put the junk down. Now, there's others of you who know you're not hungry, right? You're eating because you're stressed, and you know it. You say it to me. And I want you to understand that when you eat any stress relieving food, you aren't comforting yourself. You're numbing the pain, the problem, the issue that brought you to be stressed. When we eat carbohydrates, the reality is a bunch of chemical reactions happen, and we release serotonin and dopamine and other feel good hormones. And we actually, on multiple levels, feel better. Dopamine, we feel emotionally better. But then we also physically actually feel better. I'm gonna say that again. We physically feel better. So if the thing that's stressing me is physiological, like my joint pain that I had, I'd have a little bit of relief by eating this thing. And I didn't necessarily put it together that it was bad for me because I didn't realize that the carbohydrates that I was eating was actually causing the problem. So that little bit of relief felt like it was a win because I felt better for a little bit while I was stressing about how the heck I'm going to help myself. But in the end, it's a great big loss. It's smacking me in the head because it doesn't help me, not even a little bit, not even at all. It's a bad, bad thing. You are using food to avoid pain, whether it's physical, mental, relationship, whatever it is. You're using food to avoid the pain, which now means that you're not actively doing anything real to solve the problem. When you're stressed, it isn't about asking, what can I eat? It's about asking, what feeling am I trying to silence? What feeling am I running away from? What feeling is scaring the heck? What thing is scaring the heck out of me? Maybe it's not a feeling. Maybe it's a situation. Maybe it's a life event. Maybe, oh my gosh, when I was leading up to having my daughter, I was petrified of that experience. And did I want to eat a bunch of stuff? And did I eat it? Yeah, of course I did. Because it was the first time that I was ever going through this experience. So what are you silencing? The truth is, you need to solve the problem, right? I went to the classes about how to deliver, and I watched videos from people's experience talking about it after the fact. What did they live through? What problems happened and how did they manage after? And knowing that people got through it, as my mom had gotten through it, as my aunts had gotten through it, as every woman before me had gotten through it, helped me to see right. So solving the problem that was in front of me helped me to calm down because there was no getting away from that one. I couldn't just not do it. And if you can't immediately solve the problem, you can plan to solve the problem. So I guess my example there was me planning to solve the problem, like having knowledge of how it was going to play out, help me to solve. But I'm also talking about like maybe the thing is next year, like you find out next year your company's downsizing and you won't have a job. Yeah, that's very stressful. What am I planning now to prepare myself for next year? And that could involve a bunch of things. The point is, it's on the horizon, but it didn't happen yet, right? And you still have a chance to do something about it. The last thing is that maybe the problem is complete and you don't like the answer, right? This solution wasn't a solution for you. The only thing we can do in that scenario is, again, look at it, face it, and solve it for me, which might mean accepting it, which might mean rejecting it and changing my story. The truth is, there's always something to do. Not accepting it isn't a solution. If I say I'm never going to accept that, then that means I'm living with this problem rattling around in my head forever, causing me issues in my life forever because I'm going to be angry. And I know a lot of people who live that. For example, people who had spouses that went outside the relationship. And now they are never forgiving them, but they didn't leave the relationship. Every time I look at you, all I feel is betrayed. That's not an answer. I'm working in an environment that's toxic. I hate this environment. I'm never going to like it, but I'm still working there. Every day I step into work, I'm going to be living problems. The solution has to work for you, Wellness Warrior. If it doesn't work for you, it's not a solution. And now I want to talk about the thing that us parents, we want to help our kids be healthier. And we found keto and carnivore. And how do I help my kid accept keto and carnivore? Maybe you're a spouse that found it like I did, and you want your partner to embrace it the same way. How do I get my partner to embrace it to the level that I have? Right? What if you're a kid and you have a parent who's taking meds and so sick, and you know that if they would just eat better, they're like, how do I get my do you see the problem here? I can't force somebody to break a dependency. There's no way. That doesn't work. The only thing I can actually do is be the good example. If I'm walking through the world and I'm eating the best that I possibly can and taking the best possible care of myself that I can, then there's a chance that the people around me see what I'm doing and do better. And I know that's hard for parents to accept because, trust me, raise my hand here on this one. I am the one that allowed my daughter to eat the way she was eating, right? And I feel bad about that. Had I known this information earlier, my daughter's scenario would have been so different because I mean, from blah, 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 from the age of 0 to 4, it was a ban. No junk food, like, so no ice cream, cookies, like none of the acknowledged junk food. Soda was she allowed to touch. Like every family member, any babysitter, every household she went to, if she went, for a little play date, before I went there, I would actually, because I went with her, I would bring my own snacks for her. There was nothing, not even like nothing. She had just real food, 0 to 4. Well, real food from what I considered real food. So let's keep in mind that crackers, I didn't know there was a problem with. But I'm talking about like real junk, like ice cream, that she had none of that. And my daughter leaned towards non-sweet things out the gate. And I respected that. I remember talking to my pediatrician about the fact that she would spit the fruit out when she was baby and I first started introducing. She just had this look on her face and did not seem to enjoy fruit. And my pediatrician, bless her heart, from Africa, she's retired now, said to me, then don't feed it to her. She likes vegetables, give her vegetables. Like the vitamins and minerals is going to be the same. And I'm so happy that I did that because it did delay when I did lift the ban on junk food at 4, which is well too early, well too young. I didn't know better. She didn't like junk food. So still from 4 to 6, couldn't care less for the sweet stuff, still kept to her non-sweet things. And that only the first time she had something sweet, she had a piece of her own birthday cake at 6 years old. That was the first. I remember taking a picture. I was so shocked that she even took a few bites of it but I mean a few, minor few. So when she went past bite number one, I was like, what's happening there? And then she took off and went to go play. So it's so important for us to understand that we cannot force somebody else into good behavior or out into bad behavior or out of bad behavior. And it took time. I modeled that behavior to her. It took time for her to say, I'm going to give this stuff a bit more of a try, for her to take a few bites to get into the bad behavior. It will take time for her to get out of the bad behavior. Now, what can you actually do that will be helpful to these people? So let's talk about your house of origin. If you are the person making decisions about purchases, and especially if you have kids under the age of, I would say, 13, man, I would just stop buying garbage altogether. The junk food would stop coming into my house. It did. Stop. When I started this lifestyle almost 8 years ago now, the junk food stopped coming into my house. I just stopped it. Like just boom, it was gone. Now, for myself, right? So I still, because at the very beginning of this, I didn't understand the difference. I was still bringing in like a little bit of junk food for the kids that I didn't like because I was only focusing on me. As soon as I realized it was bad for them too, they got one thing per week. So pick something, right? And that was it. I wasn't buying copious amounts where they can go to the cupboard in any moment they wanted. And for my daughter, that wasn't a big deal because she still was in that phase where she wasn't so caring about it. What I learned later, all the other things that keep you chasing. So this is the other piece of the puzzle, Wellness Warrior. It's important for us to understand that our family members that are struggling, they're also struggling because of the rice and the bread and the cereals because as I got further and further along the path and learned more and more what was causing my family to chase, I understood that the cereal that I was buying was a bunch of junk. I understood that the bread that I was buying was a bunch of junk. I really understood anything processed, right? Multiple ingredients on the back, a bunch of junk. And so over time, I didn't just ruin my children's lives, but what I did over time is diminish the amount of that stuff that was coming in the house. And especially in my household, um, you wanted something from the store? When I'm going grocery shopping, if you don't specifically put it on the list, I don't buy it. And that helped a lot because sometimes the week would have to go by and the thing wasn't in the house, and I don't go grocery shopping on a whim for one thing. So they actually got used to it that, oh, no, there's none of this, whatever. And they just didn't have for that week. That made life easier. And honestly, double benefit, they learned that they could do without it. Now, if you're not the person controlling what's being eaten in, or what's being purchased in your house, then you won't have as much control as I had. We don't control our parents' homes. We don't control, the homes of the people we care about who don't live with us. So you can only be the good example. Now, I want to point out something because whenever I say to people, oh, but they're going to be upset and they're going to whine and whatever, I want to point something out to you, and that whether this is your spouse or it's your kids, if they had a different kind of dependency, right? You know the ones that I'm talking about? There's no way that you would be buying that for them and keeping around the house so that they don't get upset, right? You would look at them and say, no. And as a matter of fact, if you're talking about teens and above or a spouse and you have children, you might be saying to them, you cannot come home if you are in that state because you're trying to protect your children. So I want you to think about this from a very different perspective because there's no keeping something around just in case that's harmful. To this day, people come over to my house. There's no junk, like actual real junk, like chips and like I don't buy them. I don't buy them. And I still have the same rule. If you want me to buy bread, you need to actually ask me specifically. Now my kids are in their 20s. I'm not fighting with them over this. They know what's good and what's not good. They never ask me for bread. Cereal, yes, occasionally, but never bread. And I'm not going to fight with them on that topic. And as a matter of fact, my daughter tends to buy her own cereal because she knows it's a moral for me to buy it for her. But I want to point it out. There was a lot less of that stuff because I just stopped buying it. So if you clean up the environment and then you let them choose like one or two things that are going to remain in the environment, you'll be surprised at the improvements that they allow themselves to make because they start to understand why mom or dad is pushing back so hard on this, and they make the effort. And I will say, our three kids, all of them make the effort, some doing better than others, right? And I would say our one guy, he's really just stepping it up. Every time I look, he's doing something new and better for himself. And that's amazing to me because I know that we haven't beaten him up with it. We've just shown him this is what we're doing. And he's looking at us and he wants to have positive outcomes like we're getting. Which brings me to the next part of the puzzle for the other two and why they're struggling so much. Because sweet things are just hard to avoid. And when I say sweet things, I mean things that are high in carbohydrate. It's not just sweet, taste sweet. It's also sweet, has high carb count. But there's another element of this that I want to make sure I point out for you guys, which is the part where sometimes something can taste sweet, but it doesn't have active carbohydrates in it. So I'm talking about those artificial sweeteners that pull people into problems. So what's happening is that in your effort to clean up the carbohydrates that you found out are damaging your body, we end up kind of trading for these sweeteners. And some of them are even natural, like stevia is a natural sweetener. So a real plant, although you still have to highly process it to get it to our home, but that's not the point I'm making right now. We don't understand how our brain and body really works, and we don't understand that even these sweeteners cause problems. So I want to talk about two different problems that I see. Oh, and at the highest level, we have the physical, right? So if I take a sweetener in, and these are the sugar alcohols I'm talking about right now, which theoretically has no sugar, but that's not quite true. And what I found out from listening to the doctors is that those sugar alcohols, when you cleave off the alcohol, actually carbohydrate is there. And so, yes, still spike insulin and cause problems for our bodies. But even worse, when we end up using like stevia or erythritol, they have another sneaky way that they bother our insulin. So as soon as your mouth tastes sweet, you haven't swallowed it yet. It signals to your brain and then signals to your body, oh no, oh gosh, sugar's coming in. We need to do something. And your body starts releasing insulin to protect you from the incoming sugar that's not coming. And the interesting thing that I noticed, because at the very beginning of my journey, I switched from Pepsi to Diet Pepsi. And at some point in my journey, I went from eating 3 meals a day to 2 meals a day. And when I was doing 2 meals a day, every once in a while, in the middle between lunch and supper, I would have been drinking a Diet Pepsi and I didn't finish it. And at some point, I'd grab the Diet Pepsi and I'd finish it in between those that few hour period in there. And the thing that I started to notice was that on the days that I drank the Pepsi completely with the meal, and so I didn't have any in between, I made it so easily to supper. But on the days where I ended up drinking that diet soda in between, I couldn't make it. And I actively tested this because I was just trying to make sure. And over a few weeks, sometimes I would purposefully finish the whole thing at supper, see how I felt. And then I would purposefully just drink a little bit of it while I was eating and then drink the rest in the middle, see how I felt. Every time I drank it in between, hungry before supper. So I did some research, and what I figured out, Wellness Warrior, shocked the heck out of me. That incoming sugar, so sugar signal, because it wasn't sugar. That's the part that's crazy, right? It's aspartame and whatever. It's not even a sugar alcohol. It's just a sweet taste. And it didn't matter whether it was a Diet Pepsi, Diet 7-Up, diet, like any diet drink did this to me. That incoming taste ended up causing my insulin spike. And then what I learned from that is my body, when no sugar comes in at that period of time, is now missing sugar. Because what happens when your insulin goes up? Well, your body pulls some sugar out of the blood and puts it in storage because sugar's coming in. I need to be proactive. Your body will always be proactive. Excessive amounts of sugar in the bloodstream, apparently very, very dangerous, right? Like that's the stuff that sends people to the hospital. Very, very dangerous, Wellness Warrior. And I was causing my body to do that in between meals. And of course, then now my body is low in bloodstream sugar. Can't pull it right back out of fat storage. And it's not like I'm running around doing a bunch of stuff. I'm sitting at my office working, doing stuff on a computer, and my body needs energy now. And so what does it do? It asks me for something now. And the weird part about this is in the history of being me, before I started keto or carnivore, this was the kind of stuff that I would have eaten at that period of time, or granola bar, quick hits of energy. And almost like if my brain knew I needed a quick hit of energy, I wouldn't have gone and made an early supper. Well, then I would have been working too, so maybe I wouldn't be able to make an early supper. I'm away from the house and whatever. But even on the weekend, I wouldn't have made an early supper. I would have gotten a snack and eaten something right now. Because by the way, when you get that kind of hunger signal, it's intense. It's like eat something now. You ever notice that now that you're keto or carnivore, for those of you who are, the hunger signals you get are not as intense? I mean, you feel hungry. It's real hunger. Like when I'm actually hungry, I'm hungry. But it's not like if you don't get food right now, I'm gonna, right? It's not that. It's yeah, I could eat. And if I need to go cook, I get the, yeah, I could eat. And then it just goes away. It's not there anymore. It's like, yeah, it's fine. And then it'll come back. And then it's gone again. And what I now know is that when you are not fighting your body, when you are using fat for fuel, your body can actually dip into that fat that was locked away. Because let me go back to what I was saying before. When we eat something sweet and our brain deploys insulin, not only does insulin put sugar into fat storage, it blocks you from taking fat out of storage because it needs to get this stuff out of there. And it, right, so unfortunately, too or more insulin in your system means less ability to tap into the fat on your body. Companies, food companies, scientists, the people in the health world, that, so the big people, not the trainers, but the people that do the science and understand the health world know this information. They know this, and that's part of the way that they keep us in the fold, right? That's part of the way that they keep us buying their stuff. If you pay attention to the fact that most diet foods are low in what? Fat, and higher in what? Carbohydrate. Because of this calorie game that they play with us that has nothing to do with nothing. But those carbohydrates keep our body passing that sugar into fat storage, keeping us wanting more and more help from them because, oh my gosh, I can't figure this out. What's wrong with me? I don't know what the heck, right? Something must be wrong with my brain. No, no, there's nothing wrong with your brain, wellness warrior. You are just reacting to the natural cephalic response that your brain has, that cephalic phase response that says when you taste sugar, oh no, sugar's coming in, because in the history of being on this planet, artificial sweeteners wasn't a thing. Your body tasted sweet, it was because some kind of carbohydrate was coming in. That was just true. And by the way, when you're not overloading your body with carbohydrates, so your mouth isn't trained on carbohydrates, nuts taste sweet. I was shocked when I had some nuts after a long hiatus from eating any kind of fun anything. And I popped a few cashews in my mouth and I was like, what is happening here? They tasted sweet. So these things that we think aren't sweet, yeah, if we were eating real food, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, only real food, and keeping our 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 meal plan to actually just real food, yeah, these other plant stuffs, vegetation, taste sweet. So if your tongue tastes sweet and the brain signals that release of insulin in anticipation of all that sugar coming in, that does not come in, then you're in trouble. It's just that simple because you just put away a bunch. You're hungry. It's real. This is not a game. This is not, you are actually hungry. So again, we go to that thing where they will blame us. Oh, you think you're hungry, but you're not. No, you're actually hungry. You're actually hungry. Oh, you just don't have any control or willpower. Or you're greedy or you're all the things that they put it on my shoulders. No, I was actually hungry because I didn't understand that sugar would do, or artificial sweeteners would do that to me. If it mimics sugar, it keeps the pathway open. And they know that. They absolutely know that. Don't let them tell you that they don't. Don't let them, they know that. So if you are still craving junk food, if you are still craving bread, if you are still like if you find yourself like, and you're drinking diet sweetener stuff or eating things sweetened, again going back to stevia, going, if you are making keto replacement stuff that tastes sweet, that is likely the problem. And if you don't stop and really look at it, you're going to keep running into that problem. And those cravings can be insanely intense. I typically talk about them as compulsions because you do not feel in control of what you're doing. It feels like there's someone with a remote control completely controlling you, pushing you over to, yeah, you got to eat that. Like it doesn't make any sense. I can remember not being able to think clearly because all I wanted was chocolate. Like my brain just kind of going back there, going like you gotta have it, gotta get it, got that. Ugh. And the first time I remember that happening to me, Wellness Warrior, I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old. So that's pretty young. I remember being in the kitchen in my old home, like just looking around for like I got it, like just feeling. And then what I ended up having was, you know, the powdered quick powder to make chocolate milk. I remember just making the like most intense chocolate milk ever. It was ridiculous. So you might be wondering, how the heck do I start keto or carnivore when I need chocolate? Because that's what the question that I would have been wondering, right? How do I progress from keto to carnivore if those vegetables are they're still beckoning and calling my name, right? Again, right? If I had to give up those nuts, right? The automatic thinking is that I'll just slowly taper down, right? I'll just a little bit at a time, I'll remove it from my diet, a little bit, I'll taper off. I'm going to really caution you against the slow taper. And I will say, I used to say, oh, whichever way, know yourself, do it whichever way makes the most sense. But I realize a few things, and I'm about to say something that's probably pretty controversial, but I'm going to say it anyways, because I want you to succeed. When we slowly taper, we sometimes get to avoid the withdrawal. And a lot of people look at that and say, well, that's a great thing. You're not engaging with the withdrawal. I credit my ability not to go back to the fact that I lived through that withdrawal. I've known so many people who slowly tapered, and I've watched it with my own eyes. The slow taper, you go back, and then you taper again, and you go back, and now you're fighting yourself. And why? Because I think honestly that by me living that withdrawal, that slap in the face that you are not in control. Shut up. Shut up if you think you're in control. You are not. That was the first part. That 3 days of like that I lived, of like hungry as heck, not understanding, like knowing that I need to do this, but wanting to eat off. Wellness warrior. So I was not in control. But the other thing is that once I got through it and recognized that I was not in control, now you had the mental part of, I have been out of control all these years telling myself that I like chocolate when I was overweight and wanting to be healthy. I was eating stuff that was damaging my body from the age of 23 to the age of 46, damaging my body to the point where I had, during that period of time, joint pains, started in my knees, eventually progressed to my back and my elbows and my shoulders, eventually had a stiff neck that I could barely turn my head. I was doing physio, I was doing chiropractic appointments, all kind of stretches, all of that because I didn't know the carbohydrates I was eating. I didn't love them. I was out of control. I was in a compulsive state. I was overeating something that was damaging my body. So, understanding that no, that was withdrawal helped me to see, oh my gosh, I was not in control all that time. Every time I tried to conventionally diet and I got pulled back into the junk stuff, well, of course I did, because the bread. Oh, by the way, how did I know what solidified for me that I was chasing and I was in a withdrawal scenario? Just like anybody else who has a dependency, when they can't get access to their preferred something, in my case, my preferred something is chocolate and ice cream and whatever, which when I started keto, I absolutely got rid of. And I said, I'm not having that stuff. I just learned that it's causing my joint problems. Well, when a person has no access to their typical thing, their brain will send them to get the next best thing. So for people with drinking issues, for example, they sometimes will drink stuff like mouthwash, and everybody's be like, why the heck would you drink mouthwash? Because there's alcohol in there, right? In my case, I wanted fruit. And for the people who might be new here, hello, my name is Violet, and I hate fruit. I never eat fruit. The only time I ever eat fruit was back on the standard diet when I thought that that was the path to weight loss. I would force myself to eat fruit. And I'm talking about, I hate fruit. Even the fun stuff that people eat, like kiwi and strawberry and bananas and pineapple, and I eat those things in under duress. I don't like fruit. I used to eat those things to look good. I still didn't like them. I wanted wanted to eat fruit. Is that telling you how problematic So I could tell once I got through it and was looking back on the things I wanted to eat, I knew 1,000% I went through withdrawal. Now, of course, you combine that experience with what I do for a living, it completely made sense to me what happened there. And now I had a completely different vision of what had been going on with me all of those years that I had no willpower, right? I was out, so what's wrong with me? Why can't I moderate? I've never known someone with any other kind of problem, you know what I'm talking about, who could moderate it. I've never known someone who could moderate it. It doesn't exist, wellness warrior. You cannot moderate biological hijack. So the answer when you sever the connection is that you stop bringing in the thing that's causing the problem. Now, I'm going to point something else out to you. I'm lucky. My desire to end my dependency on carbohydrates was very high because the reason I started the keto diet was because I had a hip pain that blocked my ability to walk, to sit, to lay, to be comfortable in any position. So right now I've been sitting here. How long have I been live at this moment? I can't, let me just find, I've been live now. Oh, is my mouse dead? Okay, that'll be something I need to have later. But I've been live now for about 45 minutes, right? So 45 minutes, I couldn't sit for 45 minutes. So let's be clear. At work, I need to sit with clientele for at the minimum 50 minutes. And I couldn't sit for 45. I would have been in pain. I'd have been like, so now we add a new problem for me because at work, I would be the last 10 to 15 minutes of any session uncomfortable, struggling, trying to focus and pay attention. So my desire to solve extremely high. My desire to get my life back to normal, because I still had at that time a 9-year-old who wanted to do things with me, where before the pains that I had, I could push through the pain. I could, I could do at least 1 day per week of like some good activity with her and then recover for 2 or 3 days after the fact. When this hip thing hit, that was out the door. I really want everyone to understand what I'm saying here. Because if you don't understand it, you're going to think that the taper might be the best possible option. You kind of get the best of both. You don't have to throw food away. You can just slowly eat it. And, when you just finish it and you just don't buy anymore, don't do that. And especially if we're talking about, I'm going to switch gears for 5 seconds, seed oils. Dr. Barry helped me to understand that seed oils are so toxic. Again, food companies know this information. Seed oils are so toxic that you shouldn't even give them away. He said, give away all the processed food because some food is better than no food. But the processed seed oils are active poison that should be thrown out right away, immediately. Don't give it away. What am I telling you right now, Wellness Warrior? The thing that you can do to help yourself right now, immediately, for the next 30 days. If you haven't started your keto diet yet, but you're watching this video because you want to start, or maybe you've started, but you kind of flip in and out and you're having a hard time. And for the next 30 days, track everything that you eat. Keep yourself under 20 or whatever your actual number to stay in ketosis is. Some people, it's less than 20. So if what you're noticing, and this is another place where those vegetables and low glycemic fruit that they talk about, there's no reason to ever eat a fruit. But some people advocate for keeping the berries in because don't do it. It's a trap. But those vegetables and low glycemic stuff that you might be eating still could be putting you over your keto number, which will then tell your mouth, right? Oh, the sugar coming in. and you end up chasing. So I, for instance, realized after about, I would say 6, 7 months, maybe more, maybe, but it was less than a year. I realized that my number wasn't 20, it was 18. What's your actual number? You need to pay. That's why tracking everything matters so much. Because if you find yourself chasey, you can look back the day before and say, well, how many grams of carbs did I have? Right? And sure, if you're over 20, it might explain it. Oh, I was over 20. Okay, so I have to make sure I stay under 20. But if you're at 18 like I was, so I was like 18 and a half, for example, or every time I touched 18, actually it turned out to be that I would end up feeling chasey the next day or even the same evening, then your number needs to be less. So if you're tracking things, that's that way to catch that. Now, if you're keto and you're trying to transition to carnivore, there's a different instruction I have for you. I want you to eat until you're full, nice and full. You know, like the kind of thing you used to do Thanksgiving. Like, and it's not about feeling stuffed though, just full. And I'm saying that for when you start. Eventually, you won't need to do that. But I think that most people start carnivore still allowing spices into their life. So you might need to just eat until you're full. If you're eating carnivore and you decide to go full on, which is what I encourage, and you go straight from keto to meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and just salt, and that's it, no other spices, eat until you get the ick, right? When you get that feeling, and I have a video I talked about that. I can't remember which one it is. I don't know if it was this particular video we're talking about right now. It might have been this video that I'm reviewing. If you get the ick, you know that you've done your job. That is the most important, obvious thing that you can do for yourself. The goal that we're trying to accomplish here is to learn to trust yourself to take good care of yourself by eating only real food. Now, obviously, my definition of real food is meat, fish, poultry, eggs. However, and salt. If you're doing keto, that would also include the lowest glycemic vegetables that you have access to. I am paying very simple, close attention to say, do not eat legumes, do not eat nuts, seeds, and grains. Those are the plant's baby. And the toxins in there, mind blowing when I learned that from Sally Norton. The toxins in there, Dr. Ede also talks about it. The toxins in there are not good for us. Now, the other plants have toxins too, but the plant baby specifically, don't do it, Wellness Warrior. You're eating the don't do it. So nuts, seeds, legumes, grains, stay away from that stuff. The toxins are not worth the fun on the plate. I'll tell you that for sure. So that first 7 days, you're going to pay attention to salting your food to taste. I want you to find your right balance. We have been taught to run from salt, to hide from salt. Salt is bad, but another companies know, companies know that salt is important for good health. They know that. And yet the low carb world is also a low salt world. Again, it keeps us in this chasing scenario where we are retaining water because if you're not taking in enough salt, right? And anyways, there's a lot of problems. But one thing I'm going to point out here is that every single cell of your body has what's called a sodium potassium pump. Every single cell. If for no other reason than that, you should understand that we need salt. Sodium, salt. That's the stuff. We need that because every cell of our body has this pump and it needs salt to function. So the idea that we don't need salt, and I can't remember how many milligrams Dr. Barry and Nick, that Nicolandino guy, I can't remember, they had an interview, but it's a lot of salt. Like the amount of salt that they said that we needed per day, I was in shock because it was much more than we are ever told that we need. Like much, much more. I have a video on my channel. If you go and search Dr. Berry salt, you'll find it. And it goes through that. But we need salt. So it is important for you to salt your food to taste. Your body will tell you how much salt you need. So all we need to do when we salt our food is figure out, okay, when it tastes good and it's not too salty, that's the amount of salt. And that will vary as you do better or worse. We want to try to do better only. The better you do, you'll notice that sometimes you need a little more salt, sometimes you need a little less salt. And I play with that even till today. I do know that over time I've ended up with more salt than I even believed, but it's a good amount of salt. And I wish I could remember the number because I want to say it, but I don't want to say the wrong number, so I'm not going to say anything today. I'll look it up and maybe next time I'll be able to talk about it. The thing that salt helps with, but again, I'm saying this, but I'm also encouraging you, let yourself experience it. But that withdrawal that we have, most people have heard of it because it's called keto flu. It's not a flu. It's withdrawal. That's what you're living. And if you get your salt right, it can help to minimize the symptoms of those electrolyte dumps that are happening when you first do keto and your body is able to release a bunch of water. And then when you do carnivore, some people will have another dump. Not everybody does. Although I encourage you to figure out your salt, feeling a bit of that withdrawal is still a good thing. Trust me on that. Because like I said, I've known so many people who avoided it and then they just keep getting pulled back in and pulled back in and pulled back in. So if you aren't sure, you're hungry, if you're hungry, or if you're just kind of like trying to self-soothe, drink a glass of water. If it takes you more than 20 minutes to get hungry again, you like, so, if an hour or so, you probably aren't really hungry. If it's less than 20 minutes and you're hungry again, yeah, chances are you're hungry. And if the hunger is knocking you down, you're probably not hungry. You're probably just not low enough in your carb count. That's one thing. Or you could be bored, and so you're kind of bored eating, or you could be stressed. And so one thing that we don't think about is that when we are stressed, we have more cortisol in our system because we're just stressed. And cortisol encourages our body to have a little bit of free floating. So it increases that free floating sugar. And of course, now my body's fighting with itself, right? Because it will put it away because we don't need to run or we don't need to fight something, right? So it puts it away. And then what happens, right? We're going to feel a little hungry, and that's normal, right? But what we want to do is manage our stress better, because cycling in and out of needing food because I'm stressed is not great for you. Now, the second test you can do to make sure that you're hungry before you eat is test, like, am I hungry enough to actually go in the kitchen and make a meal, right? Like have a full-on meal. And I will tell you that in the history of being me, there were lots of times where I would be hungry, but no, I wasn't hungry enough for a meal. And I just wanted a snack, and I would have a snack. I would make a snack and eat it back then before I started doing keto or carnivore. And then though, unfortunately, on keto and carnivore, because we had that ability to make keto treats and keto snacks and keto whatever, I was making or having these snacks that I would make. And what do you think happened, Wellness Warrior? First of all, because I wasn't actually hungry, I was eating out of boredom, which I didn't realize at the time. I would have them, and then a little bit later, I would be hungry again, and I would go have another one, and not realizing that the only reason I was hungry again, first of all, the sweetness in these things eventually did actually make me hungry. But second of all, it was there, and I knew it was there, and I was bored, and so so you have both of those things now that starts to happen and impact your ability to be on plan, to take good care of yourself, to protect yourself. We don't want that happening. So if you really are hungry, you'll be hungry enough to make a meal. And if you don't feel like you're hungry enough to make a meal, I would pause on that one, because it's probably not true hunger. And just like those symptoms that you get in that first week of keto, right? When your body is adjusting And so basically that withdrawal you're feeling because your body's adjusting and electrolytes are being dumped and all kinds of things are happening as you progress. So as your body does better, you might notice that there's other discomforts, there's other problems that you notice, that you feel that happen, right? As I said, I'm so happy with myself that I have violet syndrome, because what ended up happening for me is that the better I ate, the more reliably I was staying closer to 20 grams, the more reliably sometimes I was dropping under 18 grams. And my body was able to show me, hey, actually, you need to stay under 18 grams. That helped me to understand, first of all, the implications of the carbohydrates, because my body was asking me for more. But second of all, once I got down under, so I went, and when I realized 18 was my number, I dropped down to 10 because I didn't want to take any chances that I would accidentally, go over, because when you're eating real food, there isn't an exact amount of carbs, right? You're always playing that plus or minus 20%. How well did the apple grow this year versus not, and all that stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I was under, right? So it helped me to know that as I do better, and I could see that my body was asking for more, but it felt uncomfortable, right? Because I would be chasing again and what's going on, and I would be, well, initially I was annoyed with myself, but then I realized no, it's because I'm improving. Some of you have reported, for example, digestive discomfort from eating, for example, too much fat or other things. Like some people end up experiencing oxalate dumping. And like we become surprised that there are things that we can ingest that cause our body to struggle. Now, I learned something, and this shocked me, but then at the same time, it was like a moment of like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. What I learned was that our liver produces 500 to 1,000 milliliters of bile daily, but our gallbladder only releases bile if we eat fat, which means that your body has this expectation on you that you're eating a certain amount of fat, because somewhere between 500 to 1,000. Now, everybody's different. You know, maybe my body's producing, 732 milliliters and your body might be producing 652 or whatever. But that means, like, the way that I interpret that. So let me be clear. The way that I interpret that is that my body has an expectation about how much fat should be coming in, because every day, whether I eat it or not, my body is making the bile to take care of it. Do you see the problem? Well, people in the low fat world live the problem I'm about to point out to you, which is this. If I don't eat enough fat, but my body is producing bile every single day for this expected amount of fat, it stays in the gallbladder because my gallbladder doesn't have the signal to pump it out. And it thickens, and stones are created. And that's problematic, because then when I do eat some fat, because unfortunately, just like in the keto carnivore world, in the regular diet world, people step out on their diet. So I'm doing low fat, low fat, low fat. I'm being super good. And throughout my, months and months and months, I'm doing super, and then I crack and I eat some really greasy, delicious food because I can't take this anymore. And what happens? My body tries to eject some bile and it hurts. And maybe there's a stone in there. It might be a little teeny tiny stone, but it's a stone. And I'm in trouble. Now, what about all those people that are able to be good for years? They actually maybe are like really strict on how much they're eating and they keep their fat low and whatever, and they're really, really good. Then they have years worth of bile thickening. I mean, they're going to have little bits come out because we eat little bits of, so whether it's real fat meat, fish, poultry, eggs, or that canned stuff, that seed oil stuff, that foolishness, right? That the highly processed ridiculousness, there's going to be a little bit. So you're going to inject some, not like you're ingesting none, but not enough. And when they do have a large fatty something, and again, the body tries to eject a good amount, stones are noticed, or the sludge is really thick. So the how I call it sludge, but the bile is really thick, and it hurts to come through, right? It hurts. The liquidity of the bile that your body's expecting and the liquidity of what it's ejecting, the opening doesn't match, and it hurts. Wellness warrior, it has to pass down a tube. Again, all of this we don't really seem to understand that if we try to force our body to do something that our body doesn't want to do, it creates problems. So that when we start eating fat again, good amounts, that process of ejecting that bile that's been sitting there being condensed, being, it's being, I can't remember the word for that, but like it's getting thicker and it's being condensed down and it potentially turning into stones, concentrated. That's what I was looking for. It's being concentrated. Passing that through is difficult. So you're going to feel it. And if there's stones coming through, well, hopefully they're small enough to pass through. If they're not small enough to pass through, that's a whole other problem that a lot of people have lived. And again, this is data that we know. How did I look it up? Because it's available to look up. 500 to 1,000 milliliters. We know that piece of data. That's daily. We know that. But rather than encourage people to eat the right amount of fat, it's much more profitable to have them in this low fat world and then do procedures to help if their bile ducts are clogged or whatever. Doesn't make sense, but this is the world we're living in. Like every other part of our body, it's one of those use it or lose it situations, right? If you don't eat the fat to allow the bile to be excreted, then your gallbladder will be in a problem. And you end up giving money to the that medical system that we have, right? The industrialized medical complex that we have. And it doesn't make sense. We don't want to be in that space. Medical industrial complex sounds better actually, because we can then turn around and say how mid it is, because it's mid. Melspur. Put it in the comments if you think it's mid, right? And in the chat. Because I think it's mid. This medical industrial complex, Mick. I don't know. I have to figure that one out. But it doesn't make sense for us to be part of that system. It doesn't. So if you actually experience pain when you eat a lot of fat, especially, but if you experience pain when you're doing this healthy diet, you want to reach out to a doctor, preferably a keto friendly one, carnivore friendly one, but you need to talk to your doctor because sometimes the repercussions of getting healthy, they feel like something, right? And they can be. I Holly, who I interviewed, talked about how much oxalate dumping she lived and her struggle, that even though she regulated her weight and but getting her body back, like actually feeling okay enough to get on with life and live her thing, was difficult. And it took her a long time, and she had to slowly help herself to understand that. And she gave me this beautiful statement: meat, fish, so animal protein is food, plants are medicinal. And I love that idea because I think it is so true. Most of our medications are extracted from plants. And if we could just help ourselves to understand that Meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt is what we should be eating on a daily basis, and only ever touching vegetation if we're not feeling well, the same way that our animals do, right? I remember my dog, when he would run around outside, it was the rare occasion that he would eat plants unless he wasn't feeling great. And then I see him munching on some grass or something, and he'd puke, and then he'd be back to his normal self running around and acting crazy. So obviously if you have a severe pain or any kind of discomfort that doesn't is not transitional, definitely see your doctor, keto friendly if you can, carnivore friendly if you can. But you need to see your doctor and work it out with them and try to have the best possible consult and really talk through all. Be willing to ask questions, be willing to push the envelope. And I talk about all these things because I want you guys to be able to ask better questions. I think that the good thing about our doctors, at least here in Canada anyway, is that they actually want us to be doing well. So if I ask the right question and really put in front of them what I see and what makes sense, they will go there with me. And if what I'm saying makes sense, they will answer me appropriately, even if they still say that they think I should take whatever med or whatever that they're going to put in front of me. They at least answer the question honestly. I would say 95% of the time. There was one occasion where a doctor didn't answer me honestly, back in 2000. But beyond that one doctor pushing an agenda, I've always had my doctors answer me honestly. So be willing to ask questions, be willing to be confident in whatever decision path that you make. Now, this brings me to the fact that as we move along in this process, right? Some of us are going to have more damage to correct, while others of us have less damage to correct. This plays a huge role in how long it's going to take to fix whatever you're trying to fix. So in my case, it was hip issues. How long it will take you to get to goal weight, maybe other pains and skin issues and all the things that we could possibly have that we're trying to fix with our healthy diet. And the way I want you to think about this, wellness warrior, is that if you bought a house to renovate and had to live in it while you were renovating it, there's no way that you would break down every single wall at once. You'd never do that. And you wouldn't even break down an exterior wall if it wasn't summer. Again, you would plan things appropriately and tear things down when it made sense to tear things down. You would set yourself up to have the most success possible in this renovation, because ultimately you saw the good bones, the good structure of this home, and you thought you could make it even better. I guarantee you that every single person watching this video right now, your body sees the good bones, the amazing structure that it's working with, and knows without a shadow of a doubt that it can rebuild this thing and make it spectacular. Spectacular. But here's the thing your body won't do. It's not going to tear down exterior walls in the middle of the winter. Not going to do that. Your body is not going to focus on aesthetic things when supporting structures are not doing well. I need every one of you to understand that, yes, at the very beginning of doing keto, carnivore, you might experience rapid weight loss. Probably because most of us have reached the stage of obesity. I was obese, and it pains me still to this day to say that. It pains me to say that. I never thought that obesity would be something that I would have associated with myself. But when I weighed myself back 8 years-ish ago and saw what my starting weight was, and it wasn't even my starting weight, because there's the part that makes me cry. I had already been doing keto for a while before I weighed myself that first time, which is where the number of 80 pounds lost comes from. But it was from, I had already lost all the water weight and that had already happened before I stepped on the scale the first time. I truly had put myself in the position of, I will weigh this forever. I have no belief in my ability to lose weight. I started keto to heal my hip. Point final. I had no belief that I could do better on weight. So when I stepped on that scale and realized that over the years of not checking my weight, I had crossed into obesity town, and not just crossed into it, but I had already lost weight. Right. That's why I stepped on the scale, because I could see like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting right. I wanted to start tracking to see, am I actually losing weight? Wellness warrior. Can't even begin to describe how that pains me to know. But anyways, yes, weight loss, it's going to happen. But your body is at the very beginning rapidly dropping your weight because you're obese. And so there's a lot of people that start keto but aren't obese, and they don't have that rapid weight loss because they're not obese. Again, remember, the problem that you start out with is going to determine like how far and how quickly and how, right? My body aggressively pulled some weight off me because clearly there was too much weight on me. Okay. And then it stopped. Well, it didn't stop completely, but the speed of weight loss dropped. So in the first, I believe it was 3 months, I lost only 20 pounds. But 20 pounds happened like, 3 months, 20 pounds is not bad. But can I point something out? Like at the very beginning, a big amount of loss, which is why I started to track. And then by the time I started tracking though, the weight, I didn't see the huge difference in myself that I saw in that first little bit of time. What I did notice, so what I'm going to point out to you, Wellness Warrior, is that there was a steady weight loss after that. It was steady. It was really steady, but it wasn't rapid. And it continued until it stopped. And there was a period of time, maybe a week and a bit, 2 weeks. I can't remember how much right now, but I know there was a period of time where I wasn't losing any weight. And then it resumed. Here's what I'm going to tell you. My hip pain was completely solved. So completely solved. I can't say it like that. My hip pain was not noticeable to me after 3 months. And I know that 3-month date because Pat asked me how my hip was, and I had forgotten why I had started keto. But somewhere before that, my hip had stopped hurting me, and I just hadn't noticed, because that's what happens in life. My road to being overweight, I can't even call it overweight, my road to being obese snuck up on me. I didn't even realize that that would be the classification until I was living it. It snuck up on me. And guess what? My road to my hip not hurting me anymore snuck up on me. Now, I had started to track the weight, so I was paying attention to that. So I did see the weight coming off. And then I saw when it paused. But I wasn't scared because by that point I had watched so much stuff, and also wasn't scared because I didn't start this for weight loss. I started this because I really, really, really just wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be able to run around and do stuff with my kids. That was the reason I started. So 3 months, no more pain, or at least none that I could notice. And I mean, I won't say it was 0-0, because if I did something super strenuous, yes, I would feel it. Nowhere to a point where it stopped me from walking or stopped me from being comfortable sitting. Again, we are more than an hour in Wellness Warrior, hour and 15 minutes in, and I'm still sitting here comfortably. Could not do that at all. Couldn't do that 8 years ago. This, I would have had to have gotten up and moved around, and like it was a whole process for me to get through a workday, a whole process. And I was not able to work as much because of what was going on with me. And I work for myself, so that's a bad thing. Anyways, all that to say, it took till September. So I would say, yeah, it took 5 months, April to September, for me to be at goal weight. 5 months. Wellness Warrior, weight loss is going to happen, But why did my body pause in there? Why did the weight loss start so fast and then pause and then because the stuff that was happening internally that my body probably wanted to focus on mattered more. Your body is prioritizing the weight loss, no, the internal health over the weight loss because that just makes more sense. Internal renovations matter more than the front lawn being mowed properly. Matters more than the color that you paint the trim around the windows, right? If your kitchen is going to fall into the basement, that's not a great time. So fixing the liver, fixing the nerves, fixing whatever is happening internally that needs fixing is more important than the aesthetic fat loss that we are all chasing. We're chasing it because that's what companies want us to chase, right? If we chase that fat loss, then we keep eating their low fat foolishness that's high in carbohydrates and harms our health. And we don't understand that we're making a mistake. It's just that simple. We're making a mistake. So a stall on the scale is often a victory for your organs. And that's the way I want you to see it. Because if your body isn't aggressively pulling weight off you, what is it fixing? Especially if you are eating on plan. If you are staying on it, what is it fixing? Now, I think the other thing I want to point out is that we are often made to believe that keto is and carnivore are so expensive. And that, I think, is born out of this throwaway society that we live in. We want everything to be cheap and of amazing quality at the same time. And that doesn't actually exist. It's just a lie that they keep us chasing because then it keeps us buying their expensive stupidity. Because a lot of these, I remember there was a cookie diet that was available at Costco. You're buying cookies for a meal. The cost of these dumb things were so expensive. And was it going to work? It's all carbohydrate. Like it just, if you buy expensive stuff that's good quality, it's going to last longer. It's going to work better. It's actually going to do what it's supposed to do. Now, that's especially true of food. So meat is not too expensive. I want us to take that idea off the table. Meat is not too expensive. There's varying price points for meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. But I want you to focus all of your attention strictly on buying what you can afford to buy. And I want to show you something. And please let me know if when I switch to this, you can't hear me, because then if you can't, I will switch back and forth. But I want to show you something. So what you're looking at here is a Costco cart that I created. And in this Costco cart, I have a week's worth of food for myself that I would have purchased if I was still doing standard diet. And this is just based on me, one person. I don't have my kids in here. I just want to show you something really interesting. Because you look at this and I have a few snacks and I have the meat that I will need to cross the week. And I have some drinks for me to drink. I don't even know if I put soda on here. I don't think I did. That's a mistake. So if I had to add soda, that's a little bit more. And if I would have, I don't think I have chocolate bars on here. So if I had to add chocolate bars, so you're talking maybe another 20-ish dollars that you probably would have to add to this bill, because remember, I ate chocolate every single day. Every single day. So, and then the soda, I don't think is there. I'm looking at it now and I don't see it. So again, that's every single day. Can you imagine? So that's one person. Okay. That's me one day, 1 week of food, $100-ish. Let's say, let's add that extra 20, $110. Let's add that extra $20. to actually eat. Oh my gosh, what I don't have on there too is eating out, because even though I would have bought food to eat home, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't have eaten out. So we need to add that too. So you're probably adding another 40-ish dollars to that. Okay? I mean, honestly, Pat and I eat out today once every other week. So I'm going to make that adjustment later. But this, going back to it, this is 1 week. Now, if I talk about just doing carnivore, this is my life today. Do you see the difference in price? I would need to buy, because this is what I actually eat, which is chicken, pork, and ground pork. And I would need to buy 3 containers of eggs to make it through 1 week of eating. Did I say 3 or 2? I added 3 there. Yeah, to make it through. I probably could have done it with 2. I think that was a calculation mistake, but whatever. Now, the interesting thing about this, Wellness Warrior, is that when you shop at Walmart, so I did this at Walmart. Both of these were from Walmart. When you shop at Walmart, you don't have the luxury of like buying just the amount that you want. So I wouldn't be able to just buy these few things. But Pat and I still would have gone out to eat, right? So my portion of us going out to eat probably could still add another $40 on there. So now I'm getting close to, no, we would have only done that every other week. So we can add maybe another, let's just add the 40, whatever, another $40 on there, going out to eat for my half of the food, right? But can I point out that because weekly I'm spending $40 less, I'm breaking ish even. I'm actually maybe a little bit ahead because I'm still not buying the chocolate bars and whatever, which wasn't in that list. So I'm breaking even a bit. Okay. So it's important for us to be able to see that the food, just buying only the healthy stuff and not touching any of the unhealthy, junky stuff that would have caused me to be chasing and want to eat more, blah, 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 and all the stuff, right? So 100-ish dollars extra, or like, anyways. Now, I want to take this a step further because I want to show you something that's actually even more interesting. If I show you this, I buy my eggs at Costco. They're $9.80 instead of the 12 something that I had for eggs from the other place. So that would have given me 36. Oh, that's why I did it that way. That would have given me 36 eggs, where this is giving me 30 eggs for $9.80. And it would have cost 12 something. Now I remember what I did. I buy my pork from the butcher, and the price per kilogram for my pork would have been like $11.02 per kilogram versus $17 per kilogram at Walmart. I buy my ground pork at the butcher as well, $9.99 per kilogram versus I think at I can't remember what it was, but it was much more. And the chicken at the grocer, so at Walmart, was $8.80 per kilogram versus my $6.59 per kilogram. Now, the other beautiful thing about shopping at the butcher and Costco, well, Costco is more like shopping at Walmart. There's a set amount you're going to buy, and you're going to buy that much, and that's it. That's all. That's what you have to do. When you shop at the butcher, I tell them how much meat I want, because I know how much meat I eat per meal. I eat about a pound of meat per meal. So if I go to the butcher, I take that amount of meat. So in my week that I just showed you there, I have 3 meals of pork chops, 2 meals of ground pork, and 2 meals of chicken. And by the way, I didn't leave a day where I wouldn't have had anything to eat, right? Because every other week, one of those days, Pat and I would have gone out to eat. So that food would have been saved, right? So technically, that would have been a little bit less, right? Why am I pointing this out to you? The money that I actually save here, 42.22 a week, is what I eat, is what it costs me to eat. Now, I don't have my oil on here because, of course, oil actually, well, there's two reasons I don't have my oil on here. When I do buy lard and I make my own tallow, that lasts me months. So it's not like I need to buy it every week. These are the things that I know going back in history, I would have been buying weekly. And all three of these lists that I just showed you. My point to you, Wellness Warrior, is that when you look at what I'm actually saving, because now what I buy today, $60 less than what I was buying when I was eating standard diet, because I was eating all those granola bars. I was eating, like, maybe I'd have a few granola bars left over for the next week, but I still would have to buy more for my snacks. I was eating chips and no, ice cream. I was eating chocolate and chocolate chip cookies, and all of those things would have been purchased weekly. We are spending so much more on food than we actually understand we are. And again, when you compare this to this, the other important thing that we're not understanding is we think Walmart is a place to save money, and it's not saving us the money that we think we are, right? Now, how many of you buy Starbucks coffee? Luckily, I don't do that. I think that's uber expensive and I won't do it. But I didn't even put that on the list. So, like, for those of you who do that, those coffees that we go and get and all these other things, and then are you taking medication? Because you got to pay for that. So on standard diet, what medications was I taking, and would I have been taking had I stayed on that path and that hip pain continued to take me out? I might have had to buckle and take medication. So you can imagine how committed I was to not taking medication, because medication makes me feel horrible. It's not because I'm super strong. Let me just point that out to you. My experience with medication is that when I take it, it doesn't help me enough to balance against the horrible feelings that I end up having from taking the medication. So my gastrointestinal problems that I would end up having, it doesn't pay for, in my opinion, to take the medication. So I don't. I'd rather suffer the headache, or in this case, the hip pain, trying to find a different answer, because I take something and the hip pain, if it's 5% or 10% better, but now I'm feeling nauseous or other kinds of ill. When people do keto and carnivore, they get to remove all of the stupidity from their bills, including medical medications that they're taking in, right? They're not purchasing all the cookies and ice cream and so those things are gone. The sodas, the takeaways, they're gone. They stop buying Starbucks. They're gone. Because why? Because we know that those are the things that are going to make us chase. Those are the things that are going to make us fail at our diets. And if you're allowing those things in once in a while, please look at it. It could be explaining why you're struggling. The important thing that I want you to take away for what I'm saying to you is that it's not expensive if you're doing it correctly. But if you're doing keto and carnivore and you're still allowing the wrong things in, you're going to have a hard time. If you're purchasing all of your stuff from big box stores and you're not actually comparing and paying attention to like how much you're spending, it might seem expensive. But even at the big box store, you're still spending less if you take away the junk. I think another problem that most of us live is that we're trying to recreate foolishness. So then we're buying keto flours and we're buying keto sweeteners, and all of those things are much more expensive than normal flour, than normal sweeteners, right? And so we end up trading one expensive thing for another rather than eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs, salt, and actually just getting your health back. If you're going to eat vegetation, eat the whole unprocessed vegetation that you can buy in the grocery store. That's absolutely healthier for you than the processed foolishness that we don't actually know is that all that's in there. And if you can find a butcher or a farmer to buy direct from, like Pat and I have found this butcher shop, you are ahead of the game because you're investing in your health by investing in your groceries, Wellness Warrior, right? You're like, that is the most important thing. Once I know that my groceries are clean and they're just helping my body to build its best version of itself, I'm going to trust my body that it knows the order of events. And if it thinks internal cleanup matters more than how my skin looks or how much weight I've lost, right? Like the texture of my hair, if my body is focusing on internal cleanup first, I'm going to be quiet. And I'm going to let that contractor do its thing because it knows how to, it's been doing this since the moment that I was conceived. It knows how to do what it does. Let it do its job. Wellness Warrior, they want us to want easy because that allows them to sugarcoat any answer and we jump up and eat it, right? Because we want the answer to be sweet and delicious and fun and cute and easy. And then we have health problems, we have weight problems, we have low motivation, life feels hard, and we don't understand why. Well, we didn't know why until today. Right now, you know why. If you eat real food, which is meat, fish, poultry, and eggs with salt, you're going to be doing so much better. Now, if you struggle with that, Wellness Warrior, you're going to want to watch the video that I've linked in the description because it's going to help you to get on track. And if it's not there yet, I'm going to link it. So let's go to the comments because I want to answer your comments before I need to jump out today. Because, well, first of all, thank you all for being here. I'm not sure how many of you are in here, but I appreciate every single one of you. And it seems like we have a good few people in here, like in the 20s. Oh, we have 11 people right now. Thank you very much for being here. And 36, so like 40 some odd people. I appreciate you. Bride Biscuit, hello. Nice to see you here this week. Always glad to see you. Let's see, we have Mandel. You're asking, last Halloween, gave the children candy. They didn't have the kind I wanted. I wasn't triggered. No, I was triggered. Last Halloween gave the children candy. They didn't have the kind I wanted. I was triggered. I purchased cookies I liked and ate a few a day. Thanksgiving break, my knees were noisy and painful. Oh, I see what's happening. So you tried to, okay. I mean, it's dangerous, right? If we allow ourselves to eat off plan, we're going to feel it. We're interrupting the renovation. So let me point that out to you. It's like your contractor is doing a renovation, and in the middle of them doing a renovation, you bring a new couch in and put it in the way, right? And now, like every time they try to do something in the room, they got to move the couch before they can do something. And chances are very good that couch that's in the way, they're going to say, well, I can't do this room anymore. And they're going to go do a different room because you put something in the way, right? And if you start putting furniture in the rooms that they're trying to fix and you just keep blocking them, you're delaying their ability to work. Or even worse, you're going to end up damaging the couch. So not only we're delaying the process, you damage the couch, right? And it doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine that your contractor is working on the kitchen and then you bring a different kind of kitchen setup in, like they have this beautiful marble, whatever they're going to do, and then you slap down some concrete and now they have to come in and like, oh crap. And they have to pull out the concrete that you put in for like a day or two because you wanted to bake something. And they have to, like, what the heck? They have to break the concrete out now so I think we need to think about what we're doing. Whatever we bring in has such a huge impact on our body's ability to continue the repair that it's trying to do. Hi hi XD, hello. Um, Thanks for sharing. I appreciate you for coming by and saying hello and letting me know that you appreciate it. Um, you can lead a horse to water, still stands. A better path for everyone would be simply lead by example. Absolutely agree with you. Leading by example is the thing for us to do. Uh, and this is your opportunity, guys, to put any questions you want me to answer in the comments because I will go through as many as I possibly can. So you said, good morning. Hi, Steve. How are you? You had a question. You said, same here. There's no crackers, bread, cookies, pasta, rice in my house. Just egg, steak, ground beef, 85.15, and chicken, pork, bacon, and Greek yogurt. It's also good for ourselves when organic liquid stevia is the best. It's much more expensive, but it's the real deal. So thank you for those comments, Steve. I already said my opinion on stevia and all those things. The sweetness, it really does get us. So I encourage you to look at that if you end up having any issues, and if you're managing it, then okay. Let's see. Bride Biscuit says natural zero carb allulose triggers my carb addiction and recorded a glucose spike on my CGM. Again, yeah, I think the thing that we don't realize is that our body is talking to everything that's happening all the time. So whether it's allulose or stevia or anything that tastes sweet, our brain signals the release of insulin. If the sugar actually doesn't come in, we're going to have a drop, and then we're going to need to eat something. Now, for some people, that could lead to cortisol kind of going up because now we're stressed, right? Our body is like, where's the sugar? And the cortisol does have the ability to pull some sugar out of our muscles and whatnot. I believe that's where it's coming from. Don't quote me on that, but it does have the ability to bring sugar back into the system. I know that part is accurate, and then your sugar could go higher. And so yes, if you saw a reaction on your glucose monitor, your continuous glucose monitor, it's something for us all to be aware of, right? Our body has ways of balancing and reacting. Even if some of them are slower to move than others, they will still happen, and that's important for us to understand. um and I forgot to mention that I'm going live in my community this evening for anybody who's interested in joining us over there, in the Wellness Squad. The links to join this community are down below. So that's happening today at 7. Mandel says, I remember being proud of eating all of the deadly, healthy garbage, granola, etc. Yeah. I mean, they got us because I feel like the fact that granola bars, for example, are sticking together with all kind of sweetness completely went over my head back in the day. I not only was eating them myself, giving them to my daughter, like it completely went over my head that doesn't make sense that I'm giving her something that is so sweet, right? Eventually she did eat them. Like I would say when by the time she was like 8 or 9, she was fine to eat granola bars. And she didn't necessarily eat the whole thing. Like she'd take a few bites. It's like so funny. Anyways, my daughter's such a funny story. Um, yes, this is described as the cephalic response where the body releases insulin. Yep. And in anticipation of incoming carbohydrates, even if you don't consume it, sweet taste and even aromas can trigger. I don't know if I've ever noticed smells forcing me to eat earlier. For sure, taste did that to me. But for example, when I go to the oh, what's that place called? The mall. There's a Laura Secord in there, and that smell, like I smell it. It smells pleasant to me. Sometimes it's overpowering. I have to like kind of go away. Depends on how close I am to it. But from far away, it smells pleasant to me. But I've never been hungry after that. So I'm not really sure how much smell can impact that. But perhaps if you're still close enough to the scenario where you've been eating off plan sometimes, maybe the smell will trigger, sort of like that bell scenario with the Pavlov's dogs. But we have to keep in mind that for Pavlov's dogs, if the bell was continued to be rung without them getting food, the response of learning could be unlearned. They could learn that, oh, that doesn't mean that there's anything coming anymore and the salivation stopped. So that's important for us to understand as well. Um, Good morning, Katrina. How are you doing? I hope I got that name right. Uh, Mike Jr., how are you doing? Very happy to have you here. Glad you were able to catch the live. This makes so much sense. This is Tam. It's definitely true for me that once I cheat, it throws me into a tailspin of sugar cravings. But when I concentrate on absolutely not having it, I don't miss it. And Tam, the thing I want to point out is that even this idea of cheating bothers the heck out of me. How do I cheat on myself? Like, the truth of the matter is, all I'm doing is lying to me about what's good for me. And I'm believing the lies from companies that says that I can have this thing and has zero and it will have zero impact on me. That's not reality. And if I understand that it's not reality, then it allows me to take better care of myself, right? To eat healthy and to let my mouth acclimate to the new foods. The thing is that our taste buds every few months like every few months you will have a mouthful of new taste buds. So because we know that that's reality, if you eat healthy for a good number of months, the food that you're eating as the months progress tastes better and better and better, and you just love what you're eating. So I really encourage you to focus on just eating healthy food and letting your mouth acclimate, and then you get to enjoy the meals you're having. That's part of the reason I can sit in front of this stupidity, two different kinds of chocolate here sitting in front of me, and not care, because my mouth doesn't like this stuff anymore. It's not interesting to me anymore. My mouth is trained on healthy food now, and that's what tastes delicious. And when I say healthy food, I mean meat, fish, poultry, eggs with salt. That's what my mouth is trained on. I was shocked when I had some fish and it tasted delicious. Not just, I could eat it. It tasted delicious. I used to hate fish. Now it tastes good. So these are things that I want you to pay attention to. Oh my gosh, I used to eat Nestle Quick by the spoonful without the milk, LOL. I'm pretty sure I've done that too. Yeah, I've done that too. That's not something that I would say I haven't done. And the reason that we do it though is because we're chasing, right? We are so looking, our body, our brain is needing a hit, and that's what we end up doing. I did that in my teenhood. Fruits are a trigger to us carnivores. It causes us to chase. The amount of apples and bananas I used to eat was embarrassing. The amount of chocolate that I was eating before I found this way of living was more than embarrassing. More than embarrassing. You cannot have fruit and not feel like you aren't chasing sugar. I agree with you. That's part of the reason I encourage people to put down the berries, because I think it's just another way that companies have sneakily snuck ideas into our head that keep us struggling with ourselves. And as a matter of fact, I don't just say take the berries out. Any vegetable that you eat that tastes sweet to you needs to be removed. Every time you eat something and you notice that it's tasting sweet, you take it out of your diet. And if you do that consistently, what you're going to notice is that over time, staying on track just gets easier and easier. When I took, um, what are those nuts called? Out of my diet. What are those nuts called? Cashews. When I took cashews out of my diet, my ability to stay on track just got easier, intensely easier. It's what we need to do. My son asked me about candies and ice cream flavors or brands. I have detailed considered opinions of 9.5 century. Okay. It's like being a retired professional athlete or college professor. Okay. So I guess you're talking about his questions to you about which ones are better and taste better and all that stuff. And you know what? When I look back, for example, this stuff, these are Smarties, right? If you would have asked me Smarties versus M&Ms, I was M&Ms all the way. I hate the fact that Smarties, each one tastes different. Like, so that whole when you eat your Smarties, do you eat the red ones? That whole thing was real. Smarties taste different. And if you like the red ones, you're going to eat them, you're going to save them. I like the fact that I can just eat through or I liked back then, the fact that I could just eat through M&Ms and they all tasted the same. And you didn't have that jarring when you get to one that you didn't like. So you didn't have to pay attention to the color you were taking. I like that. But fast forward to today, it's all a bunch of foolishness. Um, Loved by Grace says, that's me and I know better. Thank you for the reminder. I'm not sure what point I was at when you said in the video when you said that, when I said that, but thank you for chiming in with your agreement. So this is Alicia Hamrick, I want to say. Hi, Violet. I'm late hopping on, so I'm listening. I'll listen from the beginning. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you very much. I am having a great day. And thank you for going back to the beginning to listen. I appreciate it. You can leave me your comments later, and I will happily answer them. So let's see. Mike Jr. says, we are going to stay on track this holiday season, entering the new year filled with memories rather than food. I love it. That's my goal too. Because I think when you have fun with people and you have like you build memories by doing amazing things together, having great conversations in just enjoying life rather than trying to get that dopamine hit and like trying like, you can naturally get dopamine, serotonin, all the feel good here, oxytocin, which you don't get from food, but you get from great communication with people, right? So it's important for us to focus our attention on the right stuff. So I'm glad to hear that, Mike. Mandel says, first time watching on the TV. Hey, good for you. Like I love watching YouTube on television. It's such a, especially, well, I mean, I don't know how I look on the television. Like I think my setup should be fine. You can give me some feedback on that, Mandel. I think I'm zoomed out enough that it's not like, violet in your face. But I definitely, I, I have a few creators that I don't watch on television because I think they're too zoomed in. So I would really appreciate knowing if I'm zoomed correctly. Thank you very much. Hey, Pat. Glad that you jumped in here. Let's see. Low fat is why I don't have a gallbladder today. Thank you for sharing that and corroborating what I'm saying because I do think that most people just do not understand how we have all this data and they know all this stuff and yet still counsel us to do against what's healthy for the body. And until we understand that, we will keep making the same mistake. Hi, Sing It. So happy that you were able to make it. Already knew where you were going. Yes, my low fat area is exactly when I found enough stones and had gallbladder. You as well. Yep. Had I only known. You okay, so yeah. It really is unfortunate that we're tricked this way. And I mean, I feel like the only thing we can do is talk about it more so that people who have not already had theirs removed but might be starting to have issues can understand why they're having issues because we need that whether it's whatever your number is 5,000 to 500 to 1,000 milligram 5,000 to 1 why can't I speak? 500 to 1,000 milliliters. Whatever your number happens to be, you need to be getting the right amount. And I mean, so you will be producing the right amount. So you need to get the right amount of fat to allow your body to express that amount, right? If you don't express it, and for us ladies out there, can I just point out to you, it's kind of like when you were a first time or when your child was first born, right? How much they drank determined how much milk you produced. And then if you happen to not be with them that first day, like for example, when you went back to work, that was not a comfortable situation, right? Your body was expecting that little person to be expressing that stuff. And if it's not expressed, it was very uncomfortable, right? It needs to come out. And that's the same thing happening, but it's internal. I keep saying this. Inside of our bodies, we don't have the pain receptors that we have to the exterior of our body. Like when you touch yourself or when you hurt yourself here, you feel it. When things are in trouble on the inside, you can't feel it until it's a extreme problem. An extreme. So that's why there's that variation that we really do need to figure out. So yeah, we just need to pay attention to it and really help ourselves by doing what our body is asking for rather than consistently trying to do what we think we can do to trick our body You cannot trick your body. Your body is always right. Your brain is always right. Together, they will push to have what's right. Even if what's right is you weighing more because you're eating foolishness, that's damaging your body. If you eat foolishness, your body's going to put it in fat storage. And then it's going to send you out to go get more food. And if you eat more foolishness, and that cycle will keep going until you stop eating foolishness, right? And that's the way, that's the best way to help yourself. Mike says, your video, your video of today was simply spectacular. Thanks so much. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm guessing you had to leave there, Mike. Bye. See you next time. Um, Trini Girl says, hi, listening from Trinidad and Tobago. Hello. Please share this video with people in Trinidad and Tobago because rice and like all the grains that you guys eat over there. My family is also from Trinidad, so we're Barbados and Trinidad. We need to get this under control over there. So please, please, please share the video and help. Actually, everybody in here, if you don't mind sharing the video, it does help the channel to grow. But I mean, especially you over there in the islands, we supplement with so much rice. It's not helping us. The other thing I want to point out for Trinidad and the Caribbean is when we eat cassava, that has a huge, horrible negative impact on thyroid functioning. Please stop eating so much cassava. My grandmother used to make this stuff called cassava pone. It was delicious and it was horrible for my health. Luckily for me, I don't have damage, but unlucky for many people, they end up with damage because there's other ways to make cassava. She only made it in pone, thank goodness. And so that was a one way we used to have it, but there's so many ways to make it. Some people there's too many ways to have it. So, and actually it's the same thing that's in bubble tea. Those little bubble things, that's cassava apparently. I didn't know that. But so don't drink bubble tea either. It's not good for us. It's just a bad, bad situation. Zumba with Dorothy. Is that all meat, fish, poultry, eggs? Is that all? Are you asking, is that all I eat? We have to add salt to that. And if you add salt to that, yes, that is all I eat because I only eat food. So I used to be keto years ago. Zumba with Dorothy. I used to be keto, so I guess Dorothy. I switched to carnivore 2 years ago. And yeah, I feel great. I've maintained my healthy weight. So didn't lose, didn't gain. I stayed stable. But I also I eat until I feel safe. That's why I know I eat about a poundish of meat because that's about well, I'm only talking about a little bit of the story, right? A pound of meat with 4 eggs is typically a meal. And it doesn't mean that I can't, if I feel hungry, have some bacon at a different point in time or other things. Like I eat when I'm hungry, but I'm gonna make a meal, always a meal. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. So Trini Girl says, what is a typical day of eating looks like for you? That I just answered that question actually. I will have some kind of meat with eggs, typically in a day. I do drink coffee still, although I'm weeding that out of my diet. So I'll have a coffee in the morning. And if I'm hungry, I don't mind making a bunch of bacon. Like I wouldn't say it's a whole I wouldn't say it's a whole pound. It's just under. So sometimes I could have, like I said, a pound, pound and a half in my entire day of meat, fish, poultry, or eggs, and any in that combination. So I used to be one meal a day up until I would say about 4 months ago. I was one meal a day. I would have had my entire pound of meat at one meal in the evening, somewhere between the hour of 7 and 9. I would be eating. But I changed that to 2 meals when I cut out one of my coffees. Um, just because my coffees have fat in them. And so I wanted to make sure, well, basically in the middle afternoon, I was getting a little hungry. So I split my meals back in two, and I have 2 meals now. So I hope that makes sense. So can we eat nuts? So theoretically, we can eat whatever we want to eat. But would I encourage anybody to eat nuts? No. So nuts, seeds, legumes, and grains are the child of the plant, right? Those are seeds in one way, shape, or form. That's how the plant propagates. The seeds of any plant have toxins in them at a higher rate than the leaves and the flowers and the fruit of the plant. So I do not encourage anybody to eat seeds, nuts, grains, legumes. Not good for us. And when I learned that from both Sally Norton and Dr. Eid in a very short period of time. I interviewed both of them like back to back, and they both told me the same thing. Not advised, not advised, not advised. So I'm passing that along to you. I started my keto way of life eating nuts and seeds, and I was eating pumpkin seeds and all kinds. So I was right there with you. And when I learned from Dr. Chafee that spices were just bad for us because they are the most concentrated toxins that we are collecting from plants and then using them to entertain our mouths, I stopped eating those things. And that's when I went carnivore. And and because I went carnivore, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt, and I wasn't eating anything else, there was just zero room anymore to even consider having any kind of nuts or seeds or whatever. And I interviewed Dr. Eid and Sally Norton after I had already become carnivore. I'm considering renewing my membership. I miss hearing all of your helpful information, Violet. You are a tremendous help to sustaining my positive health. I love moving along my health journey with you. First of all, I really, Chrissy, I really appreciate that. And for everybody who's wondering what she's talking about, I do have a membership, and really it's a way to contribute to the channel, to give me time to do more research so I can make more in-depth videos like what I'm doing when I do the research. I have a few books that I'm reading right now that I purchased with members' money, and hopefully we're going to get a chance to talk about those really soon. So all of this stuff, it just helps me to get to buy books. It helps me um, to take time to watch doctors' videos and buy doctors' books, etc. So if you guys would like to contribute to me making more videos, I really would appreciate it. The links are in the description below. And if you want to work with me, if you want to come into the community into the coaching program, there's also a link below that you can join the coaching. There's a group coaching and there's individual coaching. You can join whichever one makes the most sense for you, and we can work together and get some of this stuff organized, because it's hard for me in these kind of scenarios to go into any kind of detail, because I really need to know what's going on with you to talk it through with you and help you see why you're not committing the way that you want to commit. So my videos are about committing to keto and carnivore. And so in the program, we're talking about the commitment, right? I'm not talking about specific food. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going through the medical whatever's you're living. It's really, how do I keep myself mentally, emotionally, psychologically on track with eating healthy every single day? That is the goal. And that is why I do have groups to work on that. So yeah, Chrissy, I would love if you want to rejoin. The links are below. Obviously, there's multiple ways that you can connect and help me out. So I would appreciate that. As I appreciate all the channel members who currently help me. I don't have a graphic to put up this week because the one I had didn't have wasn't good. So I need to make a new one. So I will make another one hopefully for next week. But I do appreciate every channel supporter. You guys help me so much. So I do appreciate it. Let's see here. Sing It says, but in my best time in Ketoville, no gallbladder, got healthy, down to 185 from 237, the body adapts. Don't let anyone tell you don't do keto or carnivore without a gallbladder, because you can. And that is great for you to share, because I think there's a lot of people that worry that they're not going to be able to do keto or carnivore because they don't have a gallbladder, because their thyroid issue, because, I mean, insert any medical health issue. They think that keto or carnivore won't be good for it. But I will pause you right there and say this. It is always best to eat healthy, period. So if you are having any medical issue, eating a healthy diet gives your body what it actually needs to help rebuild whatever it needs to rebuild alongside of the medical attention that you needed from doctors and our, medical industrial complex that we live in. So if you if you allow yourself to do the right thing and get in there and right and do and eat properly, it can only help. It won't hinder. But and this is the important thing. You need your doctor to know that you're not eating carbohydrates, because some of these medications assume you are eating carbohydrates, and therefore they're going to give you a level that's so strong it can be harmful. So this is where, again, having a keto carnivore aware doctor matters. But if you don't have one of those, having a doctor that is willing to test, that is willing to work with you and make sure that you are uh, like progressing in the way that makes sense for the medication slash eating pattern that you're on. And they won't be able to know that if they're not testing, right? Without testing, they're going to just think everything is okay. Remember, a lot of the problems that are happening internally. So that medication, as Dr. Eid pointed out, every single medication we take without exception has outcomes that we're hoping for. So what the medication we're taking, the reason we're taking it that we're hoping for, and then a bunch of outcomes that we don't want. And if your doctor isn't testing and checking and regulate and regulating by adjusting, you're not going to know. Right? A lot of people take medications, they do keto or carnivore, and they don't talk to their doctor about it. And then their medication is way too strong and they end up with other problems. And then they blame keto and carnivore for that. No, if you are on medication, you absolutely 100% need to be working with a doctor who is following up with you, who is testing what's happening with your labs and doing all the things to make sure that you are okay, because your medication will become too strong. And as Dr. Eid pointed out, sometimes it's within days that you need to stop taking stuff. So you need the follow up. Sound good. Refreshing to see someone that looks like a person and not an amalgamation of cosmetic procedures. Your right side is shadow. I would add a soft light to your down right, like by Mike Bass. I'm not really sure. Um, this is this if you're talking about this is an aesthetic choice. But if you are you saying you don't like my aesthetic choice to have the side a little darker? That was kind of on purpose. But I hear you. Not everybody's gonna like that. But I was more talking about like my framing. But thank you for the feedback, Mandel. Um, as from January, I will become a supporter of the channel. You say, oh my gosh, Mike, I appreciate you. I thought you had left, but I do appreciate you. Anybody who contributes, I appreciate you, because the truth of the matter is, as I'm trying to transition to making more videos and focusing more on helping, and I need to be able to pull time from somewhere, right? So I need to, if I'm not working as much at work because I'm working more here, I need to be able to pay for things. So I do appreciate everybody who helps, and every amount helps, because I think that as for myself, like I buy books. There's other ways too, by the way. I have t-shirts. I'm coming up with some new t-shirts actually. I'm going to have those soon. I'm really excited for them. Uh the first one should be hopefully here before the end of the year. So I can show it to you guys. But yeah, so there's lots of ways to contribute. Because I know not everybody can contribute monthly, but I think that I buy stuff from other creators to show them my support, because I'm still in a situation where I'm not able to do the monthly there and then try to keep this going, and so it's kind of hard. But I appreciate any amount that you want to share and to help the channel to grow and to help, and even sharing the video. People don't understand how helpful that is for YouTube to see you guys commenting, for YouTube to see you guys talking in the chat, for YouTube to see you guys sharing the video out. Like those things actually make a difference. And watching all the way to the end, again, those things actually make a difference. I appreciate all of you who make it all the way to the end with me, because that helps YouTube to see that this is a valuable piece of information and that I'm helping people And, like, as I talked about in that video about trusted sources, like there are pushing people to the top who as trusted sources that are beating up keto and carnivore because companies are paying them to beat up keto and carnivore. And so a lot of people who are trying to gather information and understand how to do this healthy way of living, how to get their health back, how to make sure that their second half of life is amazing, they're not getting the information that they need. So I really appreciate anyone who helps in any way that you can help, including sharing the videos out. Make sure that you comment. I really do appreciate those people that comment every time they have a new thought, they comment for the new comment. That helps. It all helps. Sing it says, yeah, when I'm home on Mondays, you look great on TV. All the purple doesn't hurt either. I love it. I mean, I'm purple, violet purple. I mean, I've leaned into my name. I used to not like when people said violet is purple, but I've leaned into it. It's still not purple. I'm named after the flower. So just so you know. But and the flower happens to be blue, which is hilarious to me because anyways, but I definitely love the way that this set is looking. I still have more things I want to do. I have in that back corner. No, wait, that back corner over there in the corner above me. I want to put some more stuff up, but I'm not sure what yet. And I have some images that are just leaning there. Like, I can't do it. There and there, those images that are leaning that I want to put up on the wall. But I'm not sure what else I want to put on the wall, so little things like that that I want to fix. Yep. Know the violet purple blue argument very well. Do you know it very well? Huh. Curious. What's your connection to violet? I'm curious. Now you have me wondering. But yeah. Wellness words. Looks like I'm at the end of your questions. This was a very, very fun conversation. We went for more than 2 hours, interestingly, but I'm glad to have you here. Like I said, later on today, I'm going to be live if anybody wants to join me over there. Next Monday, I'll be back for another live stream as usual because I love making these videos for you guys. And I really can't wait to talk to you again next week. Bye.